Welcome back to another video. If you like the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. In this video, we're going to discuss why some people find it so hard to give themselves self-praise, to really beef themselves up and give themselves the self-acknowledgement that they deserve. And there's going to be a few reasons, but we're going to focus on one really important concept that's going to allow us to give ourselves more self-praise, to really feel good about ourselves, and to really give ourselves the self-acknowledgement that we deserve. There are many reasons why someone may struggle to recognize the good stuff that they're doing, to be able to give themselves the self-acknowledgement of things that they have achieved or certain attributes and virtues that they have. There are many reasons. It might be they did something a couple of years ago and that event was a negative event. It's something they're not proud of. It might be something they're embarrassed or deeply ashamed about, and that kind of blinds them. They're held as a prisoner to that one event. It could be something that happened in their past. Someone said something to them. It could be they had a difficult upbringing and they've now believed or created this personal narrative that says, I am not a good person. I will never be good enough. I will never be someone who I could say is someone who's achieved stuff. I will never be able to give myself that self-acknowledgement. And I discuss it in my YouTube series, You're Already Incredible. You can read it in the book as well. The links are all down below the video. But there's a problem that really encompasses all of this. It's really the solution, the underlying solution to all these kind of roadblocks to giving ourselves self-praise. And self-praise and self-acknowledgement is the key, because if you achieve so much and you don't feel good on the inside, then you don't really have what I call that rich bank of emotions that we deserve to feel. And if you don't have that rich bank of emotions, you're going to be enslaved to keep on doing external things and engaging with the external environment in an unhealthy way. We have to work inside first and then deal with the outside world. Unfortunately, many people do it the other way around. They look to the outside world to get those internal emotions, so effectively they're enslaved. They're not emotionally free. Emotionally free means that I have that rich bank of internal emotions, and from that healthy, balanced place, I'm going to engage with the outside world. I'm going to engage with all the external factors, all the external environments and situations and challenges that I've got going on. And the biggest problem and the biggest roadblock that I believe that I've seen many, many times play out that holds people back from giving themselves this critical self-acknowledgement to be able to feel that internal feeling is that people are very black and white. People are very, very black and white. So for example, if someone tells me something they've done, right? It could be something small. It could be something, they were patient with a child, or they were patient with a co-worker, or they were patient with a family member. And I say, see, you've got a virtue of patience. And they're like, no, but it's just a small event, and there are so many situations where I'm not patient, right? Or it could be they have a situation where they show some self-control, right? They wanted to say something to someone, but they held themselves back, or they wanted to do something that they knew they shouldn't have done. It's unhealthy, or they were trying to kick a bad habit. And I say, see, that shows an element of self-control. But no, you don't understand, Joe. I don't have self-control, because if I really had self-control, I wouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z, and I wouldn't have done this. I would have done what I did 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. I wouldn't have ruined this relationship. So they can never acknowledge things in their life that they do that show the virtues that they have, because they're very black and white. It's all or nothing. It's an all or nothing concept, and all or nothing is a terrible pattern of thinking, because you're never going to get all, right? You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be patient 24/7. You're never going to be kind 24/7. You're never going to show or be in self-control 24/7. If you were, you wouldn't be human. And if you were, you would be watching this video, you'd be in a different world, right? So people have this kind of concept to be all or nothing, and unless I'm all or nothing, therefore I can't be good enough, therefore I can't give myself the self-praise, I can't give myself the self-acknowledgement. So it's a vicious cycle. So we have to cut this all or nothing type of thinking. And the truth is, it really applies to everything. Like, I've got to achieve all these tasks. No, you have to get the tasks that have to be done, that can be done within the next hour. You don't have to get everything done that could take 6 months in one day, because if you think that way, that's going to make you feel overwhelmed, and chances are you're not going to do anything. So it's a vicious cycle. So the more that we think in this all or nothing, we tend to not feel good about ourselves, and we tend to get less done. We have to go for what I call the grey, right? I very much live in the grey. Maybe it's because I live in Manchester and it's always grey here, but I live very much in what I call the grey. And the way I explain it is like this. Whenever I talk to someone who's struggling with self-worth, And they sometimes get a little bit defensive, like, are you suggesting that I don't have self-worth? And I say, no, that's not what I'm trying to suggest. I'm not suggesting you don't have self-worth or someone struggling with self-control. I'm not trying to suggest you don't have self-control. It's a scale. It's not two boxes that you get to tick. It's not a box of self-worth versus no self-worth, and you've got to choose which one, right? And if we tick the box of no self-worth, that means you're nothing and there's nothing to you, you're not worthy. It's a scale. It's not two boxes of you either have self-control or you don't have self-control. It's a scale. It's a scale of being very unhealthy in our self-worth to being very, 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 very healthy in our self-worth. And it's a scale. And the question is, where do we put ourselves on that scale? And it's about moving further away from this negative side of low self-worth to a more positive side of self-worth. It's the scale. And it's not all or nothing. So you do have self-worth. The question is, how much? And the question is, can we build it up more? So, when you get a situation where you display the virtue of patience or self-control or kindness or the ability to be compassionate, even if there's times when you're not compassionate, even if there's times where you don't display self-control, it doesn't mean that you don't have it. And therefore, it doesn't mean that you can't acknowledge the times that you do have it. It's a journey. It's not all or nothing. It's not a box that you get to tick, that you either are compassionate or you're not compassionate. And when people live with that type of pattern of thinking, it's very hard to acknowledge what we do. Because, well, I can't tick the box of self-control because what about all the situations where I haven't showed self-control in the past or even currently? All the things in the future that I know that I won't have, I think I'll struggle with self-control. I can't tick that box of self-acknowledgement that I do have self-control or patience or compassion. So they get blinded to so many great things that they're doing, or many great things that they've done, or many great things that they are going to do, because they get caught up in all the stuff that they haven't done, because they want this picture-perfect kind of box that they can tick that says, I am all self-control, or I'm all compassionate, or I'm all kind. It doesn't work that way. Life is a never-ending journey, and there really is no end to those scales on either side, because you can always have a lower sense of worth. You can always beat yourself up more. You can always put yourself down even more than we're currently doing, and we can always praise ourselves more. We can always beef ourselves up more. We can always give ourselves positive praise more than we're doing. It never ends. Like love never ends. Wealth never ends. You can always make more money. But as long as we're in this black and white thinking, we're going to find it very hard to acknowledge the great things that we're doing because of the times when we're not doing that virtue that we're trying to express that we are doing. It's kind of like earning money, right? If you start off on zero and you're trying to get to £1 million, and you make £1,000 and you're like, well, I'm still poor. I'm still not wealthy, because being wealthy for me would equal, let's say the £1 million mark that we just mentioned. You're going to feel very disillusioned. You're not going to feel good about yourself. And chances are that's going to have a vicious pattern, because feelings equal actions. And chances are we're going to have less chance of reaching that £1 million. And even if we do, we're going to do it in a very negative way, because we don't feel good about ourselves. When you try and achieve something because you're not feeling good about yourself, in order to feel good about yourself, chances are you're going to tread on other values that are important to you. You're not going to live a life according to your own priorities. But it's about recognizing, okay, so I've made £1,000. I'm £1,000 better off from the starting point of being on zero. I'm £1,000 closer to that £1 million mark, and I'm £1,000 away from that £0 mark. I am now more wealthy. Might not be where I want to be, but I am now more wealthy. Might not have that box of ticking that box of being wealthy, but I'm now £1,000 better off. I am more wealthy than I was. And it's the same too with a diet. A lot of people get caught up if they're overweight, right? And they just want to lose all the weight. It's all or nothing. So, they work out for like 3 weeks or 6 weeks, and they look in the mirror and they still see all the stuff they don't want to see, or they go on the scales and they still see the number they don't want to see. It's like, never going to work for me. Like, I'm not got that figure that I want. No, it's a journey. I've been on that journey. I was overweight. I was really badly overweight. I ate for my emotional reasons, stuff that I've discussed, the mind diet, how to lose weight, how to really get down to the core of what holds us back from losing weight and why we eat and we have to deal with that. I've got that called the Mind Diet on this YouTube channel. But it's about that consistency of going on a journey and recognizing the small change, about moving away from that negative side of the scale to the positive side of the scale that we're trying to go to. We have to adopt a gray way of thinking where it isn't about all or nothing. Because when we start adopting that gray approach of, okay, I'm on this scale, right? This is really where I don't want to be, and this is where I want to move towards. Well, where am I at the moment, right? Where am I at the moment? Okay, well, let's start acknowledging all the things that I'm doing that take me away from the scale, and what things am I going to work on that will make me even more compassionate than I already am. More compassionate, not compassionate, not this absolute word of I either am compassionate or not compassionate. I am compassionate. Everyone has a level of compassion, right? It could be, just needs to be improved, right? So if you're terribly overweight and you lose 10 pounds, you're now not the same person. You are now 10 pounds away from where you want to be and 10 pounds away from where you want, 10 pounds towards where you want to be. You are now less overweight and more healthy. It's not about being, healthy or not healthy. It's about being less healthy or more healthy, right? It's about adopting that grey approach. And when we start adopting that grey approach, we start bringing in so many things that we can praise ourselves about. But so many people are blinded to so many things that they do because they adopt this very rigid thinking of all or nothing. I'm either perfect in this virtue or I'm not. I'm either perfectly healthy in my physical body or I'm perfectly compassionate. No one is perfectly compassionate. It just doesn't work that way. So we've got to be more compassionate upon ourselves to recognize that we're human beings and life is a journey. It never ends. There's always new levels of compassion that you can go to. There's always more levels of self-worth that you can go to. There's always more levels of feelings of love that you can create in your relationship. It's never ending. And the opposite's true for the negative side of all those emotions. And by adopting the grey approach, by adopting the scale, I've noticed that people that I work with in my workshops, in my private clinic, they are more able to give themselves the most important thing in life. And that is self-acknowledgement. They're able to acknowledge to themselves the good things that they're doing. They're able to start acknowledging to themselves that they do have worth, that they are capable, that they are what I call an I can person. They can do, they do have worth, they do have capabilities, they do have a skill set. And we all deserve to feel that feeling. But if we don't adopt the grey approach, we're going to get stuck in that rigid thinking of all or nothing. And we're going to find it very hard to give ourselves that all-important self-acknowledgement. I always try and bring it out where, if someone came to you who you really cared about and they were saying, oh, I'm really not doing well because I haven't done X, Y, and Z, chances are you'd validate what they're saying, of course, but then you would point out to them, but how far have you come? Look how much you've done. Look at the external factors that you had to deal with and look how far you've done. Look how far you've come from. When it comes to other people, we tend to adopt the grey approach, right? We tend to show people, stop looking at the all or nothing approach. It's not about you haven't achieved where you want to get to. Look how far you've come. Look how far you've gone from that starting place and look where you're up to. Look on that scale, how much you have moved. Let's start giving that back to ourselves. What we're willing to give to other people, why are we not willing to give it back to ourselves? And we have to start giving ourselves that freedom, that flexibility, that it's not all or nothing. And when we start doing that, we will have a greater ability to start giving ourselves the self-praise that we all deserve.